Somebody's got noise on there. I didn't mean to bring everybody on at once, but goodness. Okay, Christine, we're getting major feedback from you. I just muted your thing. Anyway, good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is, wherever you are. This is Gail of Gaia and Free Range, and we have a wonderful show for you today with Jessica Arael Marrocco. And she has quite a background from anywhere from working with super shoulders to MK Ultra type stuff, MILABs. She's a psychic, she's an intuitive, she's an interdimensional seer. So, Jessica, can you give us any insights or anything about what's happening today? Because people are very frustrated. I don't know. We could always use some good news if there is any. So
having me on
go for
the show. Yeah, it's always great to talk to you because we're seeing conversation. Yeah, good news is though we can look at else and we can still.
You're cutting out. Positive. You're cutting out for some reason. Your audio is acting up a little bit, Jessica, for some reason. Okay. Sorry about that.
Okay. No, that's okay. The bars over here.
Everybody's got plenty of bars, so I don't know what's going on with all that, but let's just do the best we can. I don't know why that's happening, so.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So what is it's a perspective. So a lot of things happening. It's how you low. So things have really gone into it where people have lost their voice. Are you hearing me?
What's happening is you're cutting in and out a little bit. That's what's happening, and I have no idea why. It's usually on the end of the guest or the other parties because Restream has no control over your audio. Mm. So would you have a microphone or you know what, you might need to go into the settings and make sure your audio is hooked up to your correct audio in Restream. Maybe that's, I don't know if that's an issue. But anyway, there's so many things that are happening nowadays, and but of course we're not being reported on. It's not being reported on by the mainstream media, but that is going to eventually change, I believe. So.
But I agree with you, Gail. This is the dot connector coming in.
Oh, thank you, dot connector. Yes.
Yes.
Well, and, Jessica checks on her audio. We can chat a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I must admit, I have been frustrated of late, and we're only human. Keep trying to tell myself, oh, lift yourself up, high vibes and all that. But there's some days where you just can't do it, The chocolate ice cream comes in hand,
That's when I really love my little. Go ahead.
Better?
Talk some more.
Can you hear?
I think so. I guess you.
Yeah. About this.
It still sounds like there's a little bit of cutting in and out.
It doesn't sound like her voice either. For some
reason. I know it does. It sounds different, Jessica. You sound like a different person talking. Because I know your voice from shows and so on.
But yeah, so I mean, I think it's a natural thing to be frustrated. When it
we're not given any answers that we can count on. I mean, yes, we can discern with our heart and all that as best we can, but still the fact of the matter is we're not getting much in the way of answers, at least for the vast majority of people. I mean, those of us who are already awake know quite a bit, but I'm sure there's even more that we need to know. And that's why I have people like Jessica on, and I hope she has some insights that we can share pretty soon if her audio will just work properly.
Can you hear that better?
I think so.
Yeah?
Yeah, much better.
All right.
Yeah, there you go.
Microphone here, so that should help.
Great.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Good. Excellent. Okay.
Okay.
So,
Sorry for interrupting. Please take the floor again, and tell us what you wish to share with the audience.
well, what I was saying is everything's perspective. So even though there's difficult things happening, there's people are opening up and becoming aware of topics and ideas and agendas that they never thought existed. And for years, all of us conspiracy theorists called, people that said that we're making all of this up or we're fabricating it. And then when it started happening, and then what could they say? There wasn't a whole lot to say about that afterwards. So it's important to be open-minded and to at least listen through. And you don't have to agree with people 100%, but just enough that you're being reasonable and learning something, because we're all learning through this whole process, because the world is in a complete shift in paradigm in so many levels that we have to, assess everything and see how it's going to work out in the end. I don't see that the cup half empty. I see it half full, because any challenge is an opportunity for something more positive. And so, also an opportunity for humanity to make changes that they need to make at that present time. And so the shift to the paradigm and the consciousness of all humanity together creates the next shift or wave of humanity, which eventually brings us into a higher dimensional space. So we're evolving, we're growing in the process.
That's fantastic. And I think I am seeing more and more people seem to be starting to catch on, so to speak,
Yeah.
And that's definitely a good thing. And starting to see agendas. Did you hear about how two people, one person fainted? Well, actually two people fainted. One was a guy in a guard and one was a woman at that little funeral that they had going on.
Mm-hmm. Well, I imagine energy is really weird, and there was this really weird feeling that I had today. And that my intuitiveness strikes through. And I was just kind of laying in bed this morning. I'm saying the Queen's still there somewhere. Her energy is still there.
Wow, really?
Yeah, it kind of freaked me out a little bit. But, we know she's not the original soul. I mean, early on, she made the soul contract, when she, decided to become in leadership, and has had all of those power tools that they have over there, the objects, the devices, and all this other stuff that the monarchies had in order to be able to harness the world, the planet. And so, there's just, they want to introduce this new wave, which is Charles, right? So they're bringing that in, and it's introducing the next paradigm, or the reset of whatever he wanted to bring in. And he was very, very involved with the pandemic.
Wasn't he the one that wanted to come back as a virus and kill off a whole bunch of humanity?
I don't know.
Was that him? Something like, no, seriously, that was one of them. And I think it was him. And I think he made that comment one time, a long time ago. But anyway.
Yeah.
I don't want to do anything that would get this taken down.
No.
But anyway.
Someone also reminded me that there was a Charles I, Charles II, and neither one of them, both of them are kind of pretty much frowned upon as to what they did during the time of their reign. And so it's interesting that he is a continuation of that name. Whatever happens from here, there's high levels of puppeting as well. So we know that it's as a multidimensional seer, interdimensional seer, you understand that there's, the individual that's being used, and then those that are connected to the individual, and then the hierarchy around it. And then there's also the beings that are influencing that structure, or that there's just different regions of different beings that are in charge. And then beyond that, there's even entities beyond that. So it's multi-levels of problems.
I guess somebody has just said in the chat that it was Prince Philip, that it was the one that said he wanted to come back as a virus. And we got people, cheering these people on. I mean, whoa.
They don't know. You have to understand. I mean, because I have a lot of friends from the UK, and even as much as they disagree with them, there's still this feeling of this is our land, this is our people. And so they feel like, there's some kind of pride or dignity in it. The same way that, the accomplishments of what this very small nation did around the world, as far as harnessing a good portion of the world and being in control. So, like as an American, we have our, pride or, patriotism. And so it's almost like a fine line, because those people, as much as they know that the regime I'm calling a regime because they're all regimes, whatever the control was, they know it was a problem, but they're not willing to deal with the fact of, well, we can't say anything bad about our queen. And I remember years ago when I was talking about the queen, I made a comment, and a few women from the UK just like really got very offended, very, very offended. And I said, I would say that about any leader in our nation as well. So it's not just, they get hijacked, they do horrible things to people, to humanity. There's a sense of responsibility, and some people, they don't know how to deal with that part. I think we're helping them, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you know what? I'd like to remind people of something that they may not be aware of, if you don't mind, Jessica. I'm going to say, and that's the truth, about the American people have paid for what these people have acquired and hold as their own, and don't give to any of their own people for that matter, let alone us. But our American people have paid for all that gold, all the diamonds, rubies, pearls, crowns, tiaras, Rolls Royces, palaces, castles, servants, food, weddings, land, dumbs, and tea parties. We have paid for all of it.
Right. And their own people have. And then all of the Commonwealth has. All those nations. How many nations do they own? Many.
And how many nations were willing to sign up and say that they were willing to decrease their population? That's a whole nother story. It amazes me. It absolutely amazes me.
I want to say that I had a discussion with Peter the Insider, and Peter and I have done quite a bit of work together, since 2016 and on, and have discussions regarding the ACIO, which is, for people who don't know who the ACIO is, it's an organization that has typically been in the background, has been around for many, many years, and has been kind of there to assist if things kind of get a little overboard, but otherwise they become observers. And so we had a discussion about this, and he said that it's very likely that the Commonwealths will probably pull away and become independent. But one of the things that, here is the negative and positive of the things, is that there were infrastructures that were created in some of these nations that might have never been created. And I know that, like, I'm not saying that they're good or whatever, but I'm just saying that, like, setting up of like the sanitary systems and structures, the streets, the roads, and some of the primary things. So because they did it for their own benefit, of course. But the people will walk away with having, their land and everything intact. And if they don't learn something from this, they'll still have problems in their nation, even if they separate from the Commonwealth. So consciousness has to be in place for everyone that is in charge, because the people will suffer. And this happened with, I think it was Sri Lanka, where they got rid of one of their elites, and still they didn't understand how to run the infrastructure. And it's wise for people to begin looking into those things of how will our nation run if we are independent, and start manifesting in that way, because it is going in that direction, and you don't want to be in a place where you don't know what to do. but it's inevitable. It's going in that direction. So that's the positive part of it, at least from my perspective.
Well, I think one of the things that happened with this recent event, so to speak, too, that is kind of a marker of more events to come. And that is that something was said by Mr. T, indicating that the majesty of the United States is gone. And he was, that's who he was referring to. Our independence from England wasn't what we thought it was. But that's a whole nother story. Yeah.
Right. Because throughout this whole time, they have owned us. And I actually did a whole lot of work and research with some friends and discovered that I'm probably going to be putting out a show and discussing some of the depths of what the U.S. got themselves into without even realizing it, with the idea of expansion and growth. Because they sell you one thing, but you don't know what else you're buying into.
Exactly. And they're very deceptive.
Yeah, extremely deceptive. So whatever happens from there. And we also in the United States have a regime, and that is very careless, reckless, and pretty much fixed on destroying the U.S. in many different levels, financially, and destroying any infrastructure that we had. And I think they're not going to be satisfied until everything is really annihilated, and we are just in disrepair. So, and just shocking that more people don't step up, and
it's very disappointing is really what it is. And it is shocking too, because whatever happened to the courage and bravery of the American people?
Right.
Do they need more hardship to stand up or to do something about this? Or is that what it's going to take? That's scary.
This seems to be the only one that has, or also the governor of Texas. They seem to have the courage to be able to speak up and say that there's a problem here, and even defy some of the demands that they're laying out as what has to happen. And so, but there's all of these other people in the government that are right there watching the excessive spending that is leaving our nation, billions of millions of dollars leaving our nation, the attacking the people with, forced, I don't know what the aggressiveness regarding trying to take more from the average person. So we, as I'm looking at what's going on over in the UK. We can look back at what's going on over here too, and it's pretty shocking. I don't think we've ever been in such a state where the leadership completely hates us like any other.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
I mean, it's like we've said, all right, come on, we know that you hate the United States. Please run the United States. I mean, essentially, that's what it feels like. And the people that are right next to them and watching and observing this whole thing, none of them seem to be saying anything. And then they're passing these bills very rapidly, like as if they don't know what to do, or they don't have a voice, or I don't know. I've never seen anything like this, to be honest.
People have changed. Our society has changed a lot, and it's because of the infiltration in key positions that influenced and changed our perspective by what they said in a way that was benefiting them and not ourselves. That's
Right.
That's what I'm thinking. I have read, and I hope it's true, that CNN is currently losing a lot of people because they're being fired, and that it's being taken over by the white hats. And we may actually get something that amounts to real news on mass media here eventually, once different key people are replaced, and the white hat is willing to demonstrate their control, Would you agree with that?
I'm not 100% sure that the White Hats will be taking over, but yes, I know that people are getting fired from there. That there's a collapse, but the media has not been our friend. They have not. They have conjured up a lot of dissension. They have been instrumental in creating conflicts between male and female, between different races, between ages, cultures, and if they're satisfied that they would like to see a third world war. So whatever it is that they're getting money for, they annihilated Trump, and which I've never seen any president be attacked on that level. And there's no consciousness whatsoever. So, and CNN was very, very involved in much of that. So their downfall and collapse would definitely make way for a more positive group to enter in. I mean, and that's energetically, that's this karmic and so forth. A lot of things can happen.
I'm not sure I understand the question JC is bringing up in the chat, but I might have to come back to that.
I do. I'm answering him right now, actually.
Oh, good. Thank you. I missed a lot of anything before and after.
I can answer him now. I can erase it and answer him verbally. He wants to know why our Frank Jacobs video came on 4 to 5 weeks later on YouTube. And that was because we've had 2 strikes, and we're trying to be very, very careful about what we do and don't put up on YouTube. And so someone has stepped forward to help us with editing videos, and we really needed that help. And that's Lena. Welcome, Lena, to the family. And so she's getting used to her program, and she has another one in the works that we have mostly on Odyssey. So it may be 5-10 minutes to introduce the show, and then a redirect to the non-censored channel so you can finish watching it, basically. Okay.
Yeah. Yes. And by the way, I will be having Frank Jacob on again, and we will be talking about a very concerning thing about a possible magneto pole shift. I don't want to scare anybody because it's not fear porn of any kind, but it's just mapping what is being seen at this point in time. So that being said, let's carry on with the information that you have at hand, Jessica.
Yeah, that's interesting you brought about the pole shift, because Peter talked about that a while back and said that there was some serious frequency issues that were happening on our planet or our context of existence, as he said that. So there's many that have been working on that as a problem. We've had many problems that have come and go in the past couple of years. It has been incredible. And, aside from the nonsense that we're seeing in the news, because we have to actually look at alternative news to get an idea of what's going on around the world. One thing that this whole monarchy has done recently is it's distracted us from the real news.
Yes.
And really
they always do that. They're always good at that, aren't they?
Right. No, it's perfect because they just took over the airwaves. And so, for hours and days and so forth, everything is about this funeral. And, there's some really important things that were happening, such as the deal with Iran, I heard, was one issue that, president doesn't feel it's important right now about, cutting back weaponry. So, but what's important is this funeral. And so we're all, have to be looking at what's going on in this funeral. Meanwhile, they're probably passing laws and doing all sorts of other things in the background.
That's what they always do.
Right.
I don't know. I most of Congress, as far as I'm concerned, are traitors to the American people. They're there for their own benefit, their own gain, their own fame, their own wealth. And they put on a show for how they are trying to do something for the people. But when it comes right down to it, where were they when some of these things were passed, like the Patriot Act? How has that managed to keep going and going and going? Why hasn't that ever been stopped? That's just one example. And then I know there's some, I can't think of what it was, but there's some legislation recently too. Well, in 2013, it became okay to use propaganda in the news, and that was put in place by Obama, so that none of the news agencies could be held responsible for the lies that they told the people.
Well, you know that William Randolph Hearst was the one that started what's called the yellow journalism, right? So in around the 20s or 30s. And he that was all fantastic news, you know, just exaggerated, you know, soap opera like storylines and all of these different things for distractions. And many other nations have used propaganda for many, many years. And so for them to just give free license, that means that we don't even know what's the percentage that's actually true. I mean, you really have to dig deep to find it now. And that's why the one thing that this has done, Gail, is it caused the people to awaken enough that they started to come together, like in join in Telegram or some of these other groups, whether it's Facebook or some other group, to be able to share information, and people from around the world in different areas saying, hey, listen, this is happening in my area. There's not a single thing in the news about it. I'm going to start recording this. You know, so everybody's become a journalist right now.
That's awesome too. That's what we need. And when you have an opportunity or see something happening to a neighbor or something like that, you may be beneficial to them by recording it, if it happens to be with law enforcement or anything of that nature, because things are just happening really that shouldn't be happening over and over again.
Yeah, but I think it's motivated people to become more proactive, to find the truth of what's going on, and then sharing information. So the social media, different news sites have popped up that didn't happen. Tucker Carlson has done an interesting job. I thought he's done a really good job in exposing things that were not discussed on any level. And so you have people that are actually out there doing this, and even your work here, Gail, you know, this is a part of it.
Thank you, Jessica. I spend a lot of time and energy doing this, and which reminds me, this is listener supported. So, you know, think about me when you think about those things. I really appreciate it if you would, because I really, you know, I just need the help. So anyway.
And that goes two ways, Jessica. You are doing so much to help the planet, and I want to thank you for everything that you do. And I'm not sure everybody knows what you're doing or can appreciate, you know, exactly what you're doing. But I've been following some of your shows, and it's just amazing. Like, you walked through a mission that you did with other gentlemen, and you described what you're seeing and what you were feeling, and it was like interdimensional and time travel kind of stuff, and it was just really cool.
Are you seeing what I just put up? Yeah. Okay.
So this is the ACIO -official.org, and this is my bio on that channel. I mean, that website. This whole summer, or, you know, I guess I've been doing this for years, but I started to record some of the things that I've done. And one of the things that I did is I went to the Georgia Guidestones. I was there only a few days before that thing went down. And the work that I do, I was able to do a clearing in the space. And it was my second time there. And both times it was very odd. It's a very strange place. And I did a clearing there, and within a few days, that thing got lasered down. And we went and we had some other encounters of different places that we went to as well. And but we went throughout the South, and I'm going to be putting out a video and showing clips of different places. I went to Mar-a-Lago. That was another place that I talked about publicly. And I had a premonition that there was someone that was really observing them, and that it was dangerous, and that I didn't want to be connected with whatever they were going to do. So, because I actually have my camera out, my video camera with my phone, and I was recording, just taking a look at Mar-a-Lago because I could see it. It was beautiful. And I didn't go actually inside. I didn't go on the property, but then the security guard maybe, asked me to leave. And what was really weird, Gail, is that I looked at my phone and nothing I recorded showed up. Like it was all gone. And I said, I know I had that recording. And so then someone suggested, take a look and see what happened. And I said, there was something weird happened there. But it was almost as if there was an energy that had blocked me from being able to record. It's like they didn't want me to put anything out.
I think that sort of thing happens. I really do, on a pretty regular basis. If it's any kind of information that they think may be risky for them in some way, compromise them in some way. Wow.
Yeah. I think, well, there's ETs involved, and the ACIO is Advanced Contact Intelligence Organization, or Alien Contact Intelligence Organization, and we work with the Council of Five, and they will communicate. They have communicated with me on many occasions, and especially when there are things that, dream come true. You're right.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's like I've been getting guidance of the different places that I had to go to, and I've been to so many places in the past couple of months, and there's even still more that we're looking at. But one of the most recent places that I went to was Montauk, and that was weird. Do you know, when I actually got up to where the facility was, and this is a place that is notorious for MILABs and the MK Ultra projects, and many of the things that happen. I don't know. Are you familiar with Montauk, Gail?
Yeah, somewhat. I've heard other people talk about it, but why don't you go ahead, for the sake of our audience, explain a little bit so more people are aware of it as well. I mean, I know
that Peter Moon wrote many really good books about it, and this has been going on. I think it was Duncan Cameron was involved, Al Bielek. There was a few others that were very, very involved, and they kind of were testimonials about what they saw that happened there. There were kids in cages, and they would take kids that were runaways, and they would experiment on them. And someone pointed out to me that it's also connected to the Philadelphia experiment, and you're familiar with that as well, right?
Yes,
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very much so, yes.
Experimentation.
Oh, it's Christine.
I am too.
Yeah. Yes, Christine, I saw connected to that, because there were a bunch of it was a boat that they tried to dematerialize or to hide or mask,
Make invisible.
Invisible. Yeah. In order to see what they could do, regarding some military, advantages over others. And the magnetic field became dangerous. And when the boat actually remanifested, some of the bodies were not where they were supposed to be. And actually, some of them were caught in between walls, and so immediately dying in a terrible way. So that was a big problem for a lot of people, but those experiments continue on, and I had gone there once before, but I wanted to go again because I felt prompted. I had recognized something really interesting, and I know that people might think, well, this is really strange what you're talking about now, but
we talk about wild ideas on Free Range, so go for it.
To me, we're gonna go way out there, because in order to understand what's going on, you have to be open that there is this other dimensional field that things are playing out. So people say, oh, as it is above, so it is below. Well, there's a multi-dimensional experience that's happening, and even like, you know, parallels and all that. All of this stuff exists. I know that people have a hard time sometimes wrapping their head around it, and even those people that look at the media and they see all the problems here, but there's just a whole another level of you know, information. But anyhow, I was sitting there. I was working with someone that, you know, talks a lot about surfers and all the problems that go on. And I didn't realize it, but it's the surfing. It sounds like I'm going off, but I'm gonna bring it back around. So just hang in there. So the surfing community, I guess, is really tough. I mean, if a kid wants to go surfing, and they go there, and then there's like these gangs that say, no, you can't go in the water. And I guess maybe there's a reason for it, but it's very, like, it's a really tough and difficult kind of environment. And so and even that people have died, and then you know, some of those kids that want to perpetuate a lot of this stuff are you know, they don't have money, so then they get into drug dealing and all this other stuff. And so we see these people that are like really, really good surfers, and they had to get through these channels, or know the right people, or do the right thing in order to, you know, hang in there. But that's, I mean, it's like that with a lot of sports. But this in particular, I saw something. And so I also started to see skateboarders too as a part of this community, which I think they go hand in hand. And so I was, you know, interacting with this person. We were having discussions. And then she said something to me about this place that she rented to this surfer kid. And she said she couldn't go in there. It felt really weird. And I said, well, there's some kind of paranormal. And so I talked to Peter about it, and he goes, oh, yeah. He goes, there's some, you know, experiment that went bad, and it was related to Montauk. And so I was looking at it, and all of a sudden, I swear to God, like from my third eye, I saw this kid. I could describe him completely. I knew exactly what he looked like. And he was like a blonde-haired kid with, you know, wavy hair to his shoulder. It was like that movie, The Ring. He tried to climb through the screen.
Wow.
It was bizarre. And I'm like, oh my God. I said, this is getting really aggressive. And I looked at it, and I saw that some of the Montauk kids that were tortured, some of them got into, and this is going to sound really crazy, but they jumped through time and somehow ended up in like Venice Beach and some of those places in California. And we just I tracked the whole thing, you know, and we were looking at it. And then I found another guy that looked pretty much identical to the kid that this woman told me about, but he was a surfer years ago in France. And his name was
amazing, really.
Yeah, he was, and this is all from the projects. So when you're traumatized, right? When you're going through these projects, God forbid, you get pulled into one of the MILABs, and then they start experimenting on you, and then sometimes you become enhanced. You have these abilities. And you see different people talking about super soldiers, and like this is amazing, some of the things that they're able to do astrally, right? And some of them can have kinetic abilities. They can move things, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really amazing.
They become like gifted kids. And so it looks like the camera froze. I don't know.
Ishmael, I'm okay. No, you're okay, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're going to say something?
Anyway, I thought I needed to take something off the screen, but no, it's fine.
Okay. So, yeah. So anyhow, the kids have probably gone into many different directions, probably not just Venice Beach, but that's where I tracked it. And this one in particular that was trying to come into my spaces. So I told Peter, I said, I'm going to Montauk. He said, you shouldn't go there. He says, it's really bad. And I went there anyhow with some friends, and honest to God, I could not talk. It was like I was having trouble. The field around there was so weird. I was having trouble talking. And I did record some of the stuff that, I saw some of the buildings and the one with the big satellite that you see. I didn't go deep into the woods or anything like that, or try to get onto the private property. I didn't need to. And after that, when I was leaving, I saw one of the soldiers from Units 374, which is from the ACIO, one of the super soldiers, as well as someone that looked like Lincoln Clay, who was also one of the leaders of the ACIO. So it's like they kind of were there to protect or something when I was heading out. It was really, really wild. It was
Wow,
a very
that's interesting.
situation.
Well, go ahead.
Peter was very upset at me for going there because there was an ongoing mission and he didn't want me there, like disrupting anything. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. I noticed that there someone wants to know if you know anything about who's on the Council of 5 or the Council of 12, or anything about them that you wish to share.
The Council of 5 is you can actually find it. I can send that over to you if you want. It's on the web.
Oh, on the ACIO website?
Right. So
I could find it on the website and put it in the chat for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, would you? Yeah, she's
I'm happy to.
quick draw McGraw on finding
Quick draw
stuff.
McGraw.
Yeah, she's faster than anybody I've ever run into.
There's I've interacted with all of them at one time or another. Some of them are more so in the background.
Are they humans? They're not, are they?
No, they're not. No, they're completely race of beings, and they've been around prior to humanity. I'm going to send that right over to Jean.
What page should I look at? Actually,
I've got it. I just sent it over.
Okay. In the restream chat.
Send it to me too, Jessica, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Skype.
Yep, here it is.
Okay, I got you. Thank you.
I should say the dot connector. There we go.
Connecting the dots.
Yep.
Okay, let me see here.
There is. And that's the page that has the 5 faces of the aliens?
Yes.
That you name? Yeah. And I saw a video where you were going over what the ACIO is, and that in fact you talk to these beings a lot and get some guidance, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I've been communicating with them for a while, but in particular, they have guided me with some of the locations that, they help me in a way. So I can, if I need to go into a dangerous place, I'll be protected if they guide me. If I do something on my own, then, I'm putting myself a little bit at risk. But these are not places that you just want to go to. I mean, I've been by military bases. I've been to facilities where the elite are. We tried to go into the Kennedy compound. We got and around Obama. We were, we didn't go into their property or anything like that, but we got near there just to see what's going on over there and the activity and some very high profile individuals.
So when you say go there, do you mean you're physically there, or do you mean remote viewing type thing?
Yeah, I'm physically there, and I'm glad you brought up remote viewing because it's gotten very trendy for people to do that, especially those that want to help or whatever. I'll give you a quick story about remote viewing, where I was looking at some. I don't have to, I didn't have to learn how to remote view because I've been a seer since I was a child, and that's part of the reason why I'm with the ACIO. They knew, because of they know who people are, and so they automatically bring them in. And but there are times that you have to be careful because there's a thing of if you're focused on something, it's very possible that someone's seeing you looking in.
Okay.
And so even though whether you believe it or not, that individual who may be gifted that is protecting a space, and say, for example, all right, let's put it this way. All right, I'm going to say dot connector, right? Someone decides they want to look into your space, right, and observe you. And you have your eyes closed, and all of a sudden you see someone looking right at you, and they're observing you, or you're in the
That would be freaky.
Right, you're in the shower or something like that, and you can see someone's like, how do you feel?
Violated.
Scared.
Violated.
Shocked, and then I might punch them in the face.
Right.
Violated.
Okay, now put that in a military situation. So now you have a location that is protected by the military, or like a powerful political group or something, and you're looking into their space, and you have someone there that's gifted, and they see you looking in. What do you think that they're going to do?
Sound the alarm.
Attack.
So how do you have to create a bubble around yourself, or somehow protect yourself astrally then, right? If you knew what you were doing, I guess.
If you know what you're doing. So that's the other part. I don't know how many people actually do this.
I don't think a lot of people know. Yeah.
No. And then they find out later that they have an illness, or they have other problems and they can't explain, or their timeline gets messed up, or then they're MILAB'd. Because one of the things that Peter was upset about is that I go to Montauk, and that I was going to have to encounter non-friendly ETs. Ooh. So if they see me there, then they're going to say, hey, this one just showed up. I guess we can MILAB her, And so that's the problem with a lot of these locations. They think it's okay.
Wow.
So, and I've heard you say this before, so I'm going to ask. So do you ask permission of the Council of Five, say, if you might want to go into a similar situation to gain some information that maybe the team needs or something like that? Would you ask permission from them, or say?
Always. Oh, okay. Not just from the Council of Five. I mean, I have my own higher self, and I have others that I'm connected to that I work with. One is Odin. I call him Rodan. I've interacted with Shiva. Sometimes I need help from them, because we're talking, they're very powerful beings out there, and they will attack, and they do attack. I'll give you another example. Someone suggested, I was there with a group of people, and someone suggested, hey, let's go take a look at what's going on in Antarctica. And I was looking, and I could see this Draco, and it was hanging from like this ice, like inside this facility, and they had him somewhat frozen, and there were all these people, and like they're dressed up like protected and everything, and they're like scientists. Mm-hmm. And out of nowhere, one of the Dracos looked at me, and he spit at me. Like
really? Ooh.
And so this happened astrally. So anyone would say, oh, this is all fake. This is nothing. Well, the next day I was sick as a dog. I was like really sick. I said, oh my God. I said, that whatever that venom was, I said, I really got sick from that thing.
Oh,
I've had people say they get scratched, and literally energetically they have a scratch, and you can see, I see the entity scratch them, and then it manifests physically.
Or bruises, or you hear different things.
Yeah. People get up in the morning and they have marks on their body that they didn't have before they went to bed. So that indicates something's going on in the astral.
Yeah. I've seen there's a person that I know that he gets scratches all over his body. It's unexplained. You can't, where did that come from? There's a battle that goes on, the interdimensional battle. And unless you can see it, you're not really sure what's going on. So all of these people, like probably some of them are not going to be happy with me, that are teaching remote viewing. They're sending people out there to start looking at all these different things, and they're not taking responsibility for what those people might have to encounter and how much it could mess up their life in the future.
Wow. Not only their life, but their soul potentially, correct?
Well, no, their soul can, the soul's up to them, and whether or not they want to forfeit that. But their happiness and their well-being, and something nasty could happen or whatever. But the other thing is too that I've had experiences where someone said that they got abducted, and they said, you want to take a look at that for me? And this is one of my friends, Jimmy from Detroit, who I've done many shows with him. And he says, I think something happened, because I remember just looking up into the sky. I saw a vehicle there, and I was looking, and I don't know what happened after that. And it's like time went by. And so I said, all right, sure, I'll take a look at it. So I look at it, and Mengele's on the ship.
Oh,
And he turns
my
and looks
God.
at me. He's like, oh, he could see me. So this is time space. This happened like in maybe the 80s or 90s or something. And so he looked at me at that time space. I saw him. He saw me. And then I saw him had this look in his eye. And then he went into my timeline and went all the way down to my childhood and messed with my childhood.
Wow.
So and it happened like this, like 2 seconds.
wow.
So they can do things. That's why I said, be careful when you're addressing certain things, and make sure that this is what you're supposed to do. Don't take it lightly. Don't tamper with it. Don't play with it. And then, be aware. You have to be a seer. And another thing I used to do for years, I did paranormal investigations with people. I used to go in as the psychic. The others would go in, and some would go in because they thought it was fun. Some people went in and called themselves scientists because they had like some equipment there that they were able to, check, electronic or magnetic activity that was going on there. And I was in this very haunted house in Gardner, Massachusetts. I think it was the Pierce house. And we was a whole group, a whole team. There was camera crew and everything. And this one guy, really big, tall guy, probably 6'3" or so. And he's like, oh, I said, there's something going on upstairs in this room. I said, you better be careful. And he goes, don't worry about it. He goes, no problem. He goes upstairs, and all of a sudden we hear him screaming. He screamed.
Oh, wow.
And he came down, and he had claw marks across his neck. And I said, I told you. I said, you got to be careful. I said, because I could hear them complaining that they were going to hurt someone if they did anything. And don't ever take any of these things lightly. You have to be more aware that things can happen. And things have happened to me, and I can see it. So
Wow.
just to give people a heads up, because I know a lot of people want to help in any way they can.
No, that's important to let people know that, because people might think, oh, that's a good skill I could learn. And they might even pay money and take courses. And oh, wow, that's scary. But you actually do readings for people, correct? Like you help people who maybe made that mistake or made some other mistake or just want to know about past lives.
She does Akashic records and that's a lot about past lives. You do past life regression too, don't you, Jessica?
Yeah, I started doing Akashic records. I opened up around in my 30s. I was walking down the street and started seeing my own past life, and then started researching what happened to me. And then I did take a course to be able to understand what was going on, but I could just sit there and talk to someone and see them in different timelines and lifetimes. It's almost like a little movie. You start seeing.
That's what I've heard from people that see things like you do.
How they dressed and what they were doing, and so that evolved into people are saying, "I think it's really fascinating that you saw me doing that, but I'd like to see it for myself." So then I would put them in a regression, and then they would be able to tune into that lifetime and be able to see it for themselves and get more detail.
Wow.
So,
are there some people who can't be hypnotized?
Yeah.
They just can't.
They don't realize that they block themselves. Like some people feel.
Oh, okay.
There are people that feel like, I think, because I met Dolores Cannon, and I trained under her regarding regression.
Wow. I didn't
And
know
I
you did that.
I didn't know
Yeah.
that either. That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, she's an interesting woman, and I learned some things from her, and we're all on a path in learning in some way or another. So she she taught us a lot about how to help people get through certain things. But one of the things she said is that people that need to be in control of a situation will not relax enough to open up to seeing their past lives. So
I have that problem.
yeah, because you feel like you're too vulnerable, you're gonna, and also some people are afraid of what they're going to see, like their subconscious knows that when they first open up, they might see something kind of nasty, like them getting murdered or dying in a very, not so happy way, or poverty or something, But
Wow. Yeah.
yeah,
We're going to have to look into mine one of these days, Jessica.
Yeah.
A little deeper.
Yeah.
I'd really like to know more. Like Christine found about her interesting little past, and I'd be interested too. Well, one of the things I wanted to bring up, and someone actually put it in the questions, and that is, are we in the 10 days of darkness? I mean, the Schumann resonance has been coming up blacked out. Do you know anything about that and why that's happening? They don't want to tell us what
it
the
correlates
resonance is.
with that we are in a very, very heated situation right now, that some of the major powers are considering nuclear battles, nuclear launchings of weaponry.
Won't that be stopped by ET? I mean, they might think they can do that and want to,
Still,
but
it creates like a vacuum. It creates like an energy to harness where, because remember, the things are coming from off planet sometimes. So yeah, I got news of that today. I actually had a discussion. And so Russia, Korea, yeah, I don't know why they're thinking that this is an option, but it gets pretty heated at times. And in Massachusetts, I don't know if there's some people from Massachusetts here listening in the group, but there was a bomb that happened in Northeastern University recently. So immediately, and I felt like something like that was going to happen. And I did. I had some visions the other day of it was really weird. It was like I was viewing into something from World War I. And I felt like by something showing up, that it was triggering something else, and it felt like it was loaded, like booby trapped. So someone was doing something, and then I felt like I cleared some of it, but I think something happened. But anyhow, the Northeastern University issue happened, and I felt like I was really close to seeing that about to happen. So it just reminded me that there's some volatility and some ideas that are floating around in some of these people's heads, that this is the option, or they're very, very careless. Obviously, they don't think about the repercussions of what could happen, and no one in their right mind would consider any of that.
Right. They're not in the right mind. That's the problem.
No, they're not. And
They're psychopaths.
They should not be in any power, and they should not have access to any of this stuff. But here again, while we're focused on, what Meghan Markle's wearing at the funeral, and, all of these other ridiculous things, very
You mean
serious.
the android, Meghan Markle?
Yeah. Android. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify that because we don't know what we're seeing out there. The ones that are clones, the ones that are androids, they are throwing so much at us that people they don't have a clue. But you need to get a clue, because they're fooling the heck out of the public, and we want the public to wake up and say, hey, wait a minute. Who is that? Is that a CGI? Is that a clone? Or is that an android?
They said that
all of the above.
did a speech or something, and she talked for a few minutes and mentioned herself about 57 times or something crazy like that. I mean, it's bizarre, it's Hollywood has really been, integrated into everything that we look at. So people they really don't know the difference anymore.
Wow.
This is interesting. Someone said something about equipment isn't working, magnetic.
Yes.
Yeah. Because when I think they're trying to contain or control, trying to prevent certain things from happening. I mean, I don't know exactly how they do it, because there are different ETs that are involved in containing certain things, and in order to do that, whether it's like some kind of vacuum or something, and then it affects everything else. But that's what I believe is going on.
Did you hear that thing recently that was going on, that was promoted by a recent president's kind of friends and groups? And they were saying that these 17 cities should evacuate.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like Philadelphia, New York, Chicago,
I thought was it Colorado had something, or
yeah,
Philly
it was
was on
all
that?
around the country.
Yeah. Oh, this is what
And-
you do in the event of a nuclear.
I guess
Because
so.
well, I didn't hear about them doing it on the East Coast. I didn't hear about them doing it on the West Coast. They were focused on the Midwest. You know why?
Food.
Because it would hit on the coasts, and possibly those in the Midwest would survive.
Oh.
Oh, lovely. I might not be here. No.
I'm right here on the coast myself.
But
Well, I'm not as close as you are, but I heard that where I am in Arizona could become beachfront property very easily. So I don't know. I was thinking about going and buying some life jackets just in case.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. There are timelines where that does happen, and Peter, he is able to access other realities as well, because of the work that he does with the ACIO, and the ACIO has the technology because they're working directly with these
ET.
Council of Five and so forth. And so he's able to go into these other realities. And there was a reality that he went to that he uses video games a lot. I know people think it's silly, but it's the best way for him to describe it, so people can actually go in and look at it and see what's going on in that reality. And usually they're dystopian. But he actually went into this reality, and he said it was so bad. There were a group that were underground that were trying to survive. Everything above ground was destroyed through like dirty bombs. So it was like chemical attacks, and then there was nukes, and then they even had some kind of like EMPs and like the
bioweapons.
Bioweapons.
Wow.
But even like the electromagnetic field was so messed up. He said that if you went above ground in that reality, he said you would go insane in a very short period of time, just from the noise and the effect on your body from the disruption of the field. So these things do play out. We're fortunate that it's not playing out here right now. And what they do is they try to resolve it as they come up in other realities, because it's an effect, because other parallels affect our present reality.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and other contexts of existence that he's talked about going into, that become this playground for these negatives. And then sometimes they jump into our reality, and we start experiencing their negativity.
That's where all those negative thoughts come from, right? You have to wonder.
I mean, well, there's times that we, can go into that, but it is in our field. Let's be realistic. I mean, people have thoughts of doing terrible things. People are doing terrible things to their own children or to their own spouses, and people that they care about. And people are not operating right, and they're getting affected by ideas and thoughts that shouldn't even exist here, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
one thing I just want to mention this one thing. that people should be aware of. September 24th is the Gregorian calendar. It's the same as September 11th in the Julian calendar. If that is significant in terms of everybody talking about something happening on June 24th, maybe that's somehow related.
September 24th, you mean, or
September 24th? I don't know. Do you get anything about that? You're psychic.
Not necessarily. Like I said, that there are there's numbers do matter, in some ways. There is some level of scripting that has happened in our reality, where it's kind of preset, sort of, but can be altered. So but I don't necessarily think, I think if everyone creates, like, I won't say hive mind, but kind of an agreement that something bad's going to happen that day, you could manifest that. I always say, yeah, maybe we're headed into something negative there in that direction. Maybe that was created way back when. And then at this time is a convergence of the two calendars. So something was meant to happen, but it doesn't have to happen. So I know that some people are predicting like really bad events. Even Nostradamus. Well, not just false flag. I mean, even Nostradamus predicted some very bad events that would happen in our future, his future, that they didn't have to happen, or we can actually make it look like it happened, or, you know what I mean? There's a lot of maneuvering that people can do unintentionally, but the more people that are in agreement or in a belief system drive that manifestation to happen. And
that's something that Frank Jacob was talking about in terms of the magnetosphere, and in terms of what happens, it can be affected by consciousness. So that becomes really important for us to wake up as many people as we can, become more consciously aware of everything.
It's not just the consciousness is, your behavior and the thought towards humanity, but even the fear element. The fear element can affect anyone, whether they're people that are doing, truthers or those that are not. And we have to really ground ourselves and not be pulled away with the tide and projecting that really horrible things are going to happen at every corner, because they could happen at every corner for our own lives. But we have to, ground and trust that there's a universal love that still cares about us, and that we can harness that instead, and ask for protection, or ask that something is minimized. Say there's a tsunami coming, if everyone got together and got out of fear and said, we're going to ask that the earth, that Mother Gaia, or, whatever your belief system is going to neutralize that. And I've seen it happen. Just like, I just brought up the whole thing about world leaders thinking about, something, wanting to release some kind of bombs or do something like that. Of course, we know they crosses their mind, and maybe they're not even in their body, and they're making these decisions and being influenced. So we as humans, or we as being a part of this, need to use our energy to say, we don't consent to this, we don't agree, and we don't want it to manifest. And we can, if we get out of fear, we can do some amazing things,
especially collectively. Correct?
Yeah, collectively, that's the most powerful.
Yeah,
that's really, really the most powerful.
Especially, I think, I don't know, nobody's talked about this, but maybe people do this. Work against some of the AI driven propaganda or frequencies that may be, coming through television, radio, computers, phones, what have you. I mean, a robot can work 24 hours a day, so we really got a lot of work to do.
How are we ever going to keep up now?
Machine,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. But when the AI comes up, I mean, it just feels so metal to me. I just feel the metal, you know what I mean? When
Yeah,
So the communication, or if I'm hearing something and it has this metallic feel to it. And I just asked to shut down, delete, and uninstall any and all programs. And anyone can do that. If you feel that there's AI or influencing you, affecting you in any way, you can't sleep, or you feel like you're affected by scalar, you're affected by or your family or people that you care about are being affected, you can ask to shut down the AI and take back your power. Take back
a good
your power.
idea.
Don't feel vulnerable over these things. I think
We
that's
should actively do that.
Yes.
On
I never
purpose.
I never really thought about that until you said that.
Yeah, that's a
to
great
shut down
suggestion.
shut down the AI.
You remember, you guys we're all sovereign beings. AI is a machine.
And we won't know how to do it unless we start. We have to practice, right? I mean,
yes.
I don't think the words as important as, I think the intent is
both
the most important.
Well, words
thing.
are very important too, because you actually hear yourself say it. And when I work with people, I remind them that they have to sometimes say things out loud to just it does something to your mind. It does something to your belief system, and it makes you feel stronger.
To say it out loud?
Yeah. Say for example, an individual feels disempowered, maybe in a relationship or whatever, or they have the belief system that they're not important. You tell a person to say, I am important, and you hear them at first, I'm important, and they have their head down. No, so I am an important person. I am an important, they immediately start to embrace it. It becomes stronger. Their voice becomes stronger. They become more knowing, and then their life starts to transform. It's the same thing when you're talking about the AI or something like that.
Good evening, everybody.
No, don't be in fear over anything. Just embrace the idea that you can be in charge of your field, of whatever is around your field. You can't be in charge with what's going on around everyone else. But if you have relatives and people that are connected to you, then you can ask for protection over them. If you have a group and that your group is connected to you and they're working with, you can ask that those people will be, put some kind of love or protection over them with AI so that they're not affected.
Can you put that protection over them without having their permission? Or do you
with loved ones, yes, and people that you can tell people that I'm asking for protection for all of you, and if someone doesn't consent, they can pull away. But yes, you're not supposed to override free will for anything. I mean, that's just it's a violation, of the soul of the sovereign rules, of humanity. I know that those get broken by a lot of other people, and the whole slave system is a violation of humanity. That's a whole other topic. But
yeah, boy, they sure let that go on for a long time, didn't they?
That's because people started to believe it, and they fall into the paradigm. And I'm not saying that it's not about like pointing the finger at anyone, but it's being responsible and taking ownership for certain things. So yes, we've fallen under a slave system because we thought we needed to obey, and it's like the dog connector and I kind of went back and forth about the movie They Live. And so there's all those subliminals that have brainwashed everyone. You know what I'm talking about, right? The movie, Gail?
Oh, yeah, of course. Yes. I've seen it more than one time. And I think it's a good movie for people to watch.
It is. And so I think
that has happened. I'm sorry to interrupt. That has happened actually in our time. I was watching a decode from Jay-Z Dreamer, and he was doing a decode on They Live, but he brings in other things from other places to make his point and to add to his point. He does a lot of research. He's really good. And one thing he brought up was he slowed down. Remember that old thing that used to come on when after the last TV show was played at like 2:00 in the morning, and it was like the Star Spangled Banner or something.
Mhm.
Oh wow, I haven't heard one of those for eons. I
Right,
know
I
what you're
have
talking about though.
He pulled up an original video of that, and he slowed it down, slowed it down, slowed it down, slowed it down, and it actually said, obey, consume, obey, consume. All the words that they used in that movie, they actually did it, like, for real.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, I'm not surprised. And there's probably even more of that. But that, like in the movie They Lived, they saw he was able to see on the billboards and all the
Oh,
message.
yeah.
Yeah, during the pandemic, we saw a lot of that. I remember just going on the highway and seeing all the messages everywhere. So
Really?
yeah.
You have well, I don't like to talk about anything negative about anyone, but I have someone in the audience saying this. So I don't know if there's any truth to that. I know that there's arguments between those people, so it could be either way. Who's really the shill. It could be any of those three.
Could be both of them.
Yeah, all three of them. All three of them.
You don't know.
But
I mean, that's what's hard right now. It's confusing sometimes to know who to listen to. I mean, your intuition, of course, can guide you. And I can't find much of anything to watch except, I could probably count on my one hand the channels I watch.
I think that when you can hear me, right?
Yes, you're fine.
I mean, I think, people that are saying they're here of the light or whatever, if you don't agree with someone, then don't agree with them, but don't attack them.
Don't start attacking them. That's what a lot of people are doing, and I really don't like it at all. The light community needs to unite, not attack each other.
For me, that made me not interested in that person speaking, because I felt like he, made a comment that was really, it felt like it was wrong to do, and I don't know Elena Denon either. I don't know any of them.
I've had her on my show a couple of times. I really liked her. She's a very nice woman. Yeah. But and that was before she became quite as popular as she is now. And this apparent so-called takeover or whatever was, months ago. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. I find it hard to believe, but.
No, she's still operating. And, it's a similar thing happened to Peter the Insider. And Peter, he doesn't show his face, but, he says, he's had times because he does military type of operations. And someone was trying to leak that he was dead. And I did a show with him and I said, Peter, this is live. This is live. This is just happening. And I've done probably about 20 shows or 30 shows since. I don't know how many shows I've done with him since then, that they claim that he was not alive. And I'm like, I don't know why people do that. It's a form of discrediting. Yeah. Even if he actually believed that at the time, it was really poor judgment, I think, to make a statement like that.
Well, one of the things that I always say to, about people, and I have it right in my disclaimer on the video, just because somebody's truth at the time that it's stated could very well be the truth at that time, because certain information is not available or is missing that we will later get, and then the truth might change because it wasn't. We thought it was truth, but it didn't have all the information in order to thoroughly analyze it.
Well, if he felt strongly that that she wasn't right or whatever, he could say, I don't think she's right, or she doesn't seem to be acting the same as she did before. But time will tell. Time will tell if
exactly
someone is hijacked or whatever, you can really see it. So you don't really need anyone to inform you. That they kind of self-sabotage because they don't act the same. They don't, they say things that they, wouldn't normally say, or they disappear. I've seen throughout the years, I've been involved with a lot of this work since, I don't know, since 2012, I started doing radio, and I've seen a lot of people come and go, and some people would come in and they were like everywhere. You'd see them everywhere. And then all of a sudden they just disappear. They go just as fast as they show up. It was almost like they search on a purpose, and then they're gone, and they come in very strong, and they go back, and then they reemerge again. I'm trying to think of Alex Collier. Alex Collier was really prominent early on, and then he went through something. He like disappeared, and then
he has a serious health problem, as far as I know.
Yeah. So, he was homeless for a while, and I know that some people
too, yeah.
helped him out, and but there's a lot of this type of stuff, this up and down type of thing. So I like to sit back and watch what happens, because everybody's aligned with different things, and so some people are working with certain ETs, and some people are working with other ETs, and they conflict. And then there's the DoD that works with certain people, and they have them provide intel. I listened to this guy from I was watching a speaker at some event recently, and he worked for the government, and he says, we deliberately sometimes put out information that's not accurate to distract people from information regarding UFOs and so forth. I mean, they don't hide it. So but people have to be a little bit, you can scrutinize certain things, when people are too much in the public out of nowhere. I mean, it's just like anything. Where'd that person come from? And how did they become sort of like this superstar, and then where are they now? And have they helped anything? Did they add anything to the conversation? Were they just interesting, or were they entertaining? If you got something out of it, then good. If you didn't, then fine, but whatever, but still, the people that have been consistently around, people should be more looking into why they're more steady, as opposed to those that are just jumping in and going.
Exactly. Well, and I agree with what this person is saying about Alex Collier. He was talking about this stuff years ago, when it was very unpopular and very risky. I mean, it's still risky today. It's still risky today.
Working for the an IRS, or for the accountant, or he was doing something in that area, and he came out. Yeah, it was dangerous for him to come out, because he was heavily scrutinized. So in those days, you start talking about ETs. I mean, for him to come out, because he was heavily scrutinized. So in those days,
what the heck? We just got a repeat of what you said.
That is weird.
That is weird, because at first I thought it was dot connector repeating, and then all of a sudden I realized it was your voice. So where the heck did that come from?
It looks like it was a repercussion of some sort.
Oh my! Well, I also heard that Alex is the ambassador from the Andromedan council group, whatever. He is their representative.
Yeah, I was also channeling from the Andromedans as well, and I have my whole series about Andronicus.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. Yes.
The Andromedans. Well, there's more than one group of the Andromedans, but for some reason, he didn't. I never really reached out to him, but other people knew him, and I said, well, I'd like to talk to him sometime, but he wasn't open, or something happened.
He's hard to get through to. I wanted to have him on a show too. And at one point we were supposed to have a show in February, and then somebody hacked my email account, and he had my own email. I don't even know if he ever did respond or whatever, but he was supposed to be on sometime in February, and I just thought,
I
And
wouldn't
I
say
haven't
he's not the only, person.
contactee for.
He's with one. He has a group that he interacts with. I had a group that I interacted with. The difference was, he talks about like they talk as if they're like perfect or they're very pure, and I think the Andromedans that I talked to were more honest. They were more down to earth. And I'm not critiquing him. I'm just saying what, my opinion. And I felt like, because I've been dealing with ETs for many years, and they're not as pure and high dimension, this all high dimensional stuff. They've done a lot of things. Humanity is similar to some of these ETs that everyone wants to say that they're perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if we had our 12 strands of DNA back and we were operating on all full throttle or whatever they say, we would be the bad boys in the universe.
Yeah,
that's
and
true.
I saw someone bring up Metis, who was also working with Andronicus, and he was, trying to help the people of the UK, because clearly they had a major challenge over there. And a lot of that information, people started to listen, and they said, well, this is pretty amazing. But, I respect someone that comes forward and say, listen, I made mistakes in the past and I learned from them. And I think the universe is filled with beings that had to learn, and they're just older than us. Okay. And so we're evolving, we're learning, and we're growing, and we're expanding. But anyone that says, oh, this person, this being came in and they're pure light and they know everything, I just, that's not been my experience. And usually sometimes it's almost like they're a facade behind them. And so they're not, they put the light out there to cover what they are. It's just like people that try to say how perfect and pure they are. And then you find out all this other stuff going on, behind the scenes.
And then now you have to really look back and really check it out, because you don't know if they're just trying to discredit the person or if it's really true. That's another thing that comes in.
I just say that, no one's perfect. Let's start there.
Exactly.
And that includes as well. So anyone, that wants to believe that they're so pure, they were born pure and they never changed, that's up to you. But I think that's naive, in my opinion.
I think people can develop quite an ego, especially, even if you think you're so wonderful and great, you shouldn't have to tell anybody else that if you really were.
I want to kind of,
Yeah.
I want to kind of address this question that's up there, because it's really true. We hear more about the Andromedans, the Pleiadians, and the Arcturians, and we hear so little about the Lyrans. Why is that?
I think that the people that were talking a lot about the Lyrans are not as vocal. I mean, I talked a lot about the Lyrans. We had a lot of discussions.
Okay.
Because the Lyrans were interacting, and I had someone on my show who started talking to me about some things that I knew about the Andromedans. And he just says, well, this is really interesting, what you're talking about. And he told me that, because he was a walk-in, he said he had met Andronicus. And I said, that's really interesting. And he also said he was a Lyran. And he said, and we had these like plants that we used to eat, and they were really good. And I said they were like kind of like a not cactus, but like an aloe vera type of plant.
Okay. Yeah.
It's not an aloe vera, but it's sort of like that.
Okay.
And that was their food. It was very nutritious. And he talked about, I said, yeah, Andronicus told me about that. And we were just going back and forth about different things that he wouldn't have known that I knew. And he was just sharing, and he said he met Andronicus at a meeting for one of the councils. This is a person that's here, but he was a walk-in. And he said he recalls meeting Andronicus. He told me what he looked like. Ooh. And he said Andronicus talked about how much he loved plants, because the Andromedans are very much into terraforming. And,
okay.
And so they would go to different planets, and they would help terraform them so that they're livable for different species and so forth. So the Lyrans were also very, very passive and very loving. And I think at that time I was working with JP on in World Spirit Radio, and he had a very strong love for the Lyrans. And he used to talk about his experience and recall of what had happened there. And then there was a big tragedy that happened. So there's a lot of content. There's a lot of information on the Lyrans. It might be older, but it could be that the Lyrans have a tendency to pull back because they've been hit pretty hard in the past. Isn't
that what started all the migration or move or whatever? Because they were attacked first, and they had to go to Sirius B and other places as well.
Yeah. It was an aggressive group that went after the Lyrans. They unleashed some kind of like grasshopper type of creatures. They were just huge, like the size of a human, and they were literally eating the Lyrans. They were attacking them and eating them, and it was like very traumatic. They starved this spacecraft, and this nefarious group actually starved these creatures and then unleashed them on the planet. And so the ones that escaped created their second civilization on another planet, but it wasn't the same for them.
Wow, holy smokes!
So they were heavily traumatized.
Are the lion? Okay, this might sound like a stupid question, but I'm just want to be clear. Are the Lyrans basically lion people, feline people, or is that a whole different group or category?
So there's hybrid lion humans, and there's hybrids of all different races. And so you see, Peter talks about the hybrids, the crossbreeds, and all that. And even like in the Egyptian pantheon, you see, like the ibis, like Thoth, this ibis and human. You know what I mean? Like Horus and all the different like animal heads, and so there's that. But the Lyrans are literally more of a race that is naturally sort of feline humanoid, but not extremely like as if we would merge two races together. It's different.
Interesting. I see someone said in the chat that now they know why they fear grasshoppers. There must be Lyran background. Oh, yes.
Was pretty scary. Yeah. I mean, from what I heard from people, it was quite a horrible experience.
I bet. And who knows all the different experiences that we've had, and the reason why we're maybe afraid of spiders or afraid of rats or something.
Spiders on Mars, right?
Yes, I've heard about them. Boy, they'll snag you and kill you in a minute.
They're huge, right? And
very large.
All right, we talk about hive mind and AI, and it's sort of like they have like a hive mind.
Yeah, my friend Penny Bradley, she was killed by them more than one time, and then they put her in a regen tank and revive her, that kind of thing.
Yeah, they're very, very dangerous. And another thing too is in Vietnam, people had memories.
I heard that
of seeing very large spiders. Yeah.
And they were coming eating dead bodies. Is that right?
Yeah. Some like
that's what
horror stories of these enormous spiders.
Beings. Yeah, I heard something to that effect too. Wow, amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, there are many different species, and think about everything here on the planet. Everything's alive, and something being in a smaller scale. But if you look at insects, that would be like really, really horrifying if they were large.
Now I know where they get the sci-fi movies from. All they got to do is take one of those insects and enlarge it, and then you got a monster. It's funny.
Well, think ants can carry many times its weight and everything.
I've seen them. Yeah. I see. That's funny because when I go hiking, I see ants, and you see these little ants carrying this great big piece of something, and I'm going, "Oh my God!" Anyway, you have a question here directly, Jessica. It says, "What are your thoughts on Dr. Stephen Greer and the Disclosure Project? Have you got any news regarding him lately?"
Yeah, I mean, I haven't met him. I'd like to meet him sometime. I think what he's done is he's really paved the way for a lot of people that are trying to see disclosure. He has gone out publicly and presented evidence and has been trying to get people to embrace free energy. I've heard him speak multiple times. I also have talked to these guys. They're brothers, Derek and Daniel, and their grandfather, I guess, was knowledgeable of some of this information. And they also talk about Stephen Greer and Dr. Stephen Greer, and he's, we have to be grateful for some of these people that paved the way, and when it wasn't popular, and similar to Alex Collier and some others. Mm-hmm. That even just for that reason alone, like people like I can't think of her the name right now, but yeah, there's many others out there that kind of were the forefronts, like Jesse Ventura. He was he
even came forward very early on.
Yeah, and said things that really, he had a career. He was a politician. He didn't have to say any of those things, but he did. And because of that, it made it a lot easier for us. And one of his friends, Dave Corso, I worked with Dave Corso in Wolf Spirit Radio before JP took over. And Dave Corso worked directly with Jesse Ventura and exposing a lot of information. So, and he did a lot regarding super soldiers. So I was like pulled into this very early on. And it's
wow.
very interesting. Yeah.
Look at this. Somebody mentioned this. A friend of mine was in the Vietnam War and said those spiders attacked them at night. They dragged them out of foxholes. Oh my God. Wow. Talk about being terrified. It's bad enough getting shot at. Just add this huge creepy creature. Oh my God.
War was a horrifying war. I
think was one of the worst.
A nightmare war, and then on top of that, they weren't appreciated for who they are when they got back. And it's a real crime that the government did to these soldiers that really mistreated them in the end, and what they had to go through. Just some of them never survived after that.
It's terrible what they do to people in the name of a training, or in the name of they're doing something for their country, or they're saving somebody, or some other stuff, and it's a bunch of lies in order to it's horrible. I mean, Vietnam was one of the worst wars ever, and the things that went on, and it was all for all the wrong reasons.
I was going to say about Carrie Cassidy, because Carrie Cassidy knew Dave Corso as well. And she's another one that kind of came out early on and has revealed a whole lot of information.
She's a real soldier, a real ground.
I respect journalist, and she does an excellent job with her interviews, and she's very she asks very, very difficult questions, and she does a great job. But
she does. She's not afraid to go for the throat when she needs to. And she does.
I think she's trying to bring out the truth, and
oh, for sure. Yeah. And she doesn't put up with bullshit, to be frank.
Yeah.
And
but neither did Dave Corso. If Dave Corso would be on you in a second. He was a tough one to work with. Mm-hmm. Very honest.
What about giants? Do you know anything about giants living in the mountains? Somebody's asking about that.
Yeah, and we had a discussion with Peter, the insider, regarding from the ACIO. He talked about the giants that existed over in Afghanistan, and that the military, actually had to get control of them. And there was a few times he contacted me and asked me to try to communicate with them to calm them down. Because they were reacting as the military and people in outside of the country, like they were accustomed to their own people, the Afghanis. They were comfortable with them, and they lived in caves, and there was a mutual respect. But when the military came over there, it was very disruptive for them, and they started to react. and so it created a conflict. And so, but they have they're another type of being from us. They're not just humans that are large, and so they have a very strong consciousness, and they can bring in negativity if they're mistreated, just like any other ET group.
Wow.
So, yeah, but yeah, they do exist. I believe they exist. I've seen them astrally too. There are titans too that are huge. They're absolutely huge if you can see them with your third eye. They show up. They show up in different places. Like I've been to Iceland, and their presence is very strong there. And they guided the Vikings.
Wow,
And
really?
You can find these huge titans but they're a whole different race. They're a whole different species of beings.
Wow.
So there's a question here.
Yes, I'm
Jessica,
sorry.
May I ask a question?
She has a.
I just wanted to share her books. She has 2 books on Amazon, and I'm putting them in the chat. One is called The Seer, Violets in the Grass, and the other one's the I can't say it.
Andronicus translation.
Yeah, I know. I have a trouble with it too.
I didn't know that one was there, so I'm glad I just saw that. Thank you.
Yeah, that's I had a whole bunch of transmissions, over 100 transmissions, communications that I would write down information, even like within hours before the show. And I would write the information down, and JP would read the information. All those shows are available on AndronETalksRadio.com. But then I put some of it in a book because some people got more out of it just by reading it. And I'm not up to date with publishing the rest. There's going to be about 5 or 6 books related to that series.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Yeah. But
Great.
in the Seer, Violets in the Grass is some of my like early childhood and kind of some of my experiences when I was growing up.
Wow. Well, what about this question that's on the page about, is the Earth at the cusp of emerging into a higher dimension? What do you think?
I believe so. I believe that the more information that people are starting to understand and realize, and realization is the next step to evolving, and so it lifts your consciousness. You start to understand. So when you're a child, you understand certain things, but then you don't understand, say, a parent grabs a hold of the child and says, don't run in the street. And they grab a little tight and the child gets upset. And you say, oh, my parent's mean. But then you look at it when you get old and you realize my parent just saved my life.
Yeah.
But at that moment, you think this is cruel and you don't understand it. It's the same thing. Humanity's starting to understand things and getting past that stage of being a child and understanding that there's a greater wisdom and why that we didn't go through certain things or why they held us back. You see? So yes,
Wow.
Absolutely. Because I think people are wakening up, which is wonderful.
That's
really
exactly what we need. And you know what? I would like to ask you if you have anything else that you might like to add, because we're coming up on 1 hour and 45 minutes and I have to keep this under 2. So we got about 5 or 10 minutes left.
there was a biblical question here, or
oh, here's a good one. Here's one right here. Any thoughts, Jessica, on the flash? The solar flash. Everybody talks about the solar flash.
Yeah, that we've talked a lot about corporations. If you look at the ACIO official .org, you will see information about nefarious corporations. And some people have commented to me, oh, we got rid of all the corporations already. No, our world would be so much better if it wasn't. One of them was Monarch. People said, oh, Monarch is gone already. Well, yeah, in part they're gone, but there's still like things going on over in England, which we know. So these corporations have been tampering with the sun, have been tampering with the earth, and without any like sense of responsibilities. They're very reckless. everything is as a fun experiment to them. And I'm not saying it lightly. I mean, they're truly nefarious. And so we have many different groups that have caused us pain and sorrow and so forth. And so the sun wouldn't naturally be doing some of these things, but they are trying to instigate certain things. So that's something that the ACI has been working on.
Oh, the ACIO has? Okay. How,
Yeah.
what kinds of things are they doing to,
The different ETs are able to work with, to try, there's the ones that work on the infrastructure of our, Earth in the context of existence. So they're like, very, very advanced scientists. Not all ETs are just, trying to do bad things. Some of them actually can build stuff and fix things. And, and so we have different, just like anything, in order for our planet to operate in the way it does, it has to have, something watching and maintaining everything as it goes. Not just
sort of kind of like guardians of the planets or the universe or whatever.
Yeah. I know someone said that's from the central sun. It doesn't matter. I mean, I know a lot of people like talking about the central sun. There's many suns, and there's many suns that have died off. There's even like the black sun, that, it exists, it still emits energy and does different things.
There's even suns in inner Earth.
Yeah, there's an inner Earth sun. That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. Do you know anything about what has been said about 6 pristine Earths in 4D? One already taken by the Jinn, another one by the Muslims, another by the Hindu Indians, and then the Christos group. What do you have? Do you know anything about that? Do you agree with that? Do you say
some of Patty's information, and some of it comes from Ashiana Dean and Patty and I talked about the Jinn before, and so they have ways of they have a perspective of describing things, and so I could be describing the same thing but with different terminology. So I don't know. I mean, I'd like to not get into how people are defining certain things. It's like another religion or something, or you just all right. So I understand that, but we all understand that. There's different groups and categories of things, and that's their definition of it. I don't necessarily believe that the Christos are working with Trump, but if they believe that, then that's fine. I mean, it's a choice that people have to how they want to interpret things. It's neither. I'm not really adamant about things as some other people are.
Yeah. Thank you. And I appreciate that, because I'm not either. I like to go with the flow and be sure I have all the information before I make any dogmatic conclusions.
Yeah. And it's like right now, I don't think it's a good time to start arguing and nitpicking over doctrinal belief. And, years ago, I went to Bible school. I just wanted to learn theology. I had lost my parents. I did, you kind of trying to sort through life. And I'm talking about really young, like 17, 18 years old. And the more I got into studying the Bible, studying church history, the more I found out that there were so many different groups that wanted to argue over one piece of scripture and all these different interpretations of it. And it feels similar to that. We have people nitpicking over which is what that meaning is and the terminologies that are used. And I feel on a personal level, I just want to back away.
Isn't that all ego going on there? They have to be right, or they have to have the, I don't know. I think
sometimes it's ego. Sometimes these people are just really feeling passionate about it, and they can't see any other way, and that's it. And so, there's other things that are more important than arguing at this point. That's the way
I couldn't agree more. And how are we ever going to get to unity if we can't stop arguing with each other? We have to get to the level where we accept things, whether you agree with it or not, you just accept it. If that's someone's perspective, that's where they're at. They may be at a different place than you are, that kind of thing. And when we start realizing that, that's the only way we're going to be able to move forward and into unity consciousness, which is what we want in order to be in the 5th dimension.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Do you have anything, Connector, you might like to say in closing? We're going to get off of here very quickly here.
Just that I would highly recommend Jessica's YouTube channel. I have put it in the chat a couple times. I can put it in again. Very interesting. Very interesting.
Yes, and the ACIO is definitely something you want to look at their website and the information there too as well.
Yes,
So-
and I put her website Readings by Ariel in the chat a couple times, as
Yeah.
well as her books.
Yeah, and
So-
we also have a radio station that goes 24/7. It's called AndronETalks Radio.
Okay.
Yes, we should add that.
.com. Okay.
There's another one too that would be very helpful with people. We began our conversation talking about the news and the media and so forth. So we have someone that's absolutely brilliant. Her name, we call her Super Sleuth, and she has
Sleuth.
sleuth, and she finds everything that's out there, and sorts through it all and puts it into a website called AndronETalks News. And so there's information in there.
Okay.
And you can look up, and there's thousands of articles at this point. I mean, it
Could you just look at my spelling, please?
Let me just send that over to you really quick.
Typing is not my. Well, I put it in the chat. You can probably see that from where you are. No.
Can you see the chat? She should be able to.
I'm just gonna do that.
Okay.
Let me see.
Lots of resources here. This is great.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I don't see the chat. Let me see. I'll open up the chat here.
Well, it's
I don't
close.
see anything. Okay. Did you get that? I sent it over.
Okay. I'll check.
I'll send it to Gail.
Oh yeah, I see it.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I thought I had put that on, but maybe I didn't. So let me add that to the chat here before we close.
Okay.
Oh, copy.
Yeah, so that we have archive articles and all sorts of different informations. We try not to promote any type of bias. So you may see an article in there that you agree or disagree. You
Thanks,
can
Gail.
read the information in the beginning where from the editor that she states that she's just going to provide articles and that people can agree or disagree, but at least we're providing some information regarding what's going on that mainstream media is not promoting. So we put a lot of time and effort for the public, and I hope people take advantage of it.
Well, I would love to have you on again, Jessica, because there's always more to talk about, and you have a very unique perspective, and we'll just have to do this again sometime. But I think we're going to have to call it a wrap for today because we're at almost 2 hours here in a few minutes. So I can't thank you enough for being here. I want to thank everyone in the audience for being here as well, the listeners, and do remember that I am a listener supported program and I really could use some help. So gratitude donations are very much appreciated. I put in a lot of hours in this as others do as well. So anyway, thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Jessica, and thank you, Dot Connector. And we'll have to do this again soon. Thank you.